Hi, welcome to Systems Learning with Game-like Activities. Hopefully I can share with you some experience I've had with using gamification-like activities and some fun in a workplace, trying to get people to use a new software, an updated software application. Let's get started. All right, let me get my presentation view to work. Oops, it was slow. There you go. I had a slow moment, sorry. I'm acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which the online conference is hosted and the traditional custodians of the land, and paying respects to our elders past, present and future. We'll remind you about that we do have a code of conduct, and so therefore we respect everybody's opinions and hair colours and all that sort of stuff that's very important in our at-home workplaces. So if you're concerned about the code of conduct, please go and have a look at it, but no harassment at all, please. All right, what are we talking about? Gamification or game elements. So I'll talk about this again, but this is about using game elements and game design techniques in non-game or workplace type context. So I've got a couple of references there for you. A book, For the Win, by Kevin Werbach and Dan Hunter, highly recommended reading. And also there's some links to other stuff. And you've probably heard about gamification. You've probably participated in gamification using some of the mobile apps that you use. But I want to talk about how we can use it in the workplace. Hey, here's some images about me. I'm a bit gamey sometimes too, but yeah, this is some stuff you want to know about me. I've studied, I drink coffee and whiskey, I photo, I jump out of planes just for the heck of it, a bit of fun. All right, and there's my contact details if you need to get in contact. All right, so I worked for a company called IDP a few years back, and they are an international education company. They assist in students coming internationally into Australia and Canada and the UK and New Zealand, and I believe they've also attached Ireland to that cohort as well. And they also are responsible for the English language testing that's done, the IELTS test that's used around the world as well, or part owner of that. So when I worked at IDP, they were supporting students in 27 countries and had 500 education counsellors around the globe working to assist students in coming to Australia and to other locations to do their higher education study. So why did we have to use some game-like activities? All right, so we had a knowledge base. It was called Oscar. It was part of a whole customer relationship management tool. The reason it was called Oscar was, again, sort of, I guess, partly gamey. There was a competition to help choose the name of the tool, and I believe the Oscar acronym is the Overseas Student Central Advice Resource. Yes, so they use it as an acronym. When it was built and delivered in July 2011, the knowledge base part of it was sold as a tool to help better match students to the courses that they wanted to take. But because of the size of the information that was contained in the tool, when it was launched, there was about 120,000 knowledge base pages inside Oscar that were information about the universities they could go to and the courses they could attend, and accommodation types and visa applications and things like that. There were some real challenges with search inside that knowledge base, and therefore participation was low. And by looking at that, when you have 700 counsellors globally, and I think they were getting, it was in the tens of thousands of students coming to Australia and the other international locations at the time, you can see that the knowledge base answers at that stage wasn't highly participative. So I've got reporting was scary. It was barely existent there for a while, and there was slow going, trying to get integration and things happening inside and getting people to actually view knowledge base pages in there. So I had to look at ways I could improve things. So I managed to, when I got into the organisation, there was a couple of things that were happening. First of all, whilst initially it was the knowledge base was sold as a matching tool, it wasn't really, and they actually built a separate matching application in there. So it was, I guess, misbranded to start off with. So we had a bit of a secondary project that we're able to put in some fixes into the knowledge base to help improve search, change the homepage a little, and then look at how we could allow for learning to happen within the knowledge base. So the first thing was about search improvements. We had Boolean search, and they had OR as the default search option in the Boolean searches in there. So that meant when students were searching for, when counsellors were searching for a course that was in Melbourne and around engineering, instead of just getting all the searches that were about universities in Melbourne that did engineering, they were getting any reference to Melbourne and any reference to engineering. So when you've got 120,000 pages and a lot of them were referring to Australian universities, they were getting tens of thousands of results in there. So there was a real challenge with the search. At the same time, we were building a community portal. So it was called Oscar Connect. It was allowing us to search, put out training materials in there and actually build some discussion boards. Now, I know I've gone down, there's two paths in there, but they do definitely collide. So the community portal was being built at the same time. So here's what I did. And I got some triggers from doing some gamification training, which I'll refer to a little bit later. But the idea was I decided that a treasure hunt would be a good way to get people to go and look at some of the changes that we did inside the knowledge base. And it was particularly around the search elements in there. So we did advertise, we sent out some email updates to say that we were going to do a treasure hunt. And then on the day that the treasure hunt was starting, we sent out bulk emails, yes, to 700 people around the globe to tell them to look for the clue inside the knowledge base. And every day of that treasure hunt, I used a different way to search through the knowledge base to try and get the answer to the questions. So some days it was on article number, some days it was around search for a block of text, some days it was about searching particular keywords, and some days through navigation. So for example, I think I asked for randomly look for Queensland and scuba. What that has to do with education is that there was a student testimonial about how awesome it was to be doing their university training. I think it was at Northern Queensland, and on the weekends they could go scuba diving. So the text enabled them to find something that was much more random that way. But by using those sort of text prompts, they could see the different ways that they could search through the knowledge base. And then to answer the question when they found the right page, they used the feedback mechanism inside Oscar to tell me that they had found Oscar and what page it was. So the feedback mechanism actually generated and automatically told me what page, and it just then told me which person found that answer, which I'm showing you some on. This is the 2012 first version. So feedback function. Click on the yes, the answer was helpful, and then give some particular feedback. Oh, sorry, I think in this case we used no, so that they could then say why the answer was not helpful. So there were some pros and cons with that. The downside is that because all these answers got no on them, the ratings for that answer obviously dropped down, or the value of that answer. But the upside of that was that then the feedback submissions were all in one location, and that was inside the knowledge base in there. So using that feedback mechanism taught them a couple of things. We taught them how to search inside the knowledge base, and we also then taught them how to use the feedback mechanism in there, and also making sure they got a response to that as well. When the feedback came to us, and I'm just trying to show you a very quick answer, my team member who was based in India at the time was managing the feedback mechanisms in there. What it did was when they sent the feedback, it actually created an incident, if you like, in the back end of the system. And so she managed those for me in there, and then gave me a list at the end of each day of who had successfully responded to the question. And then what we did was we used the community portal to display results in there. So I think we were only going to do it for about a week or two in the first instance, but we extended it out to an extra week. And every day I listed who was who were successfully completed the Oscar search, who was the daily winner. So I chose randomly because of time zones. I couldn't choose the first person to respond as the correct winner because we had different time zones, 27 countries. We had many different global transactions. So I sort of basically drew random names out of a hat. And I also had a weekly winner as well. So I collected some prizes online and on eBay and things like that and sent them out to those particular winners. So bottom left corner, you can see I got some global stretch balls and a pen holder that had a globe on it. So those my random winners got some actual physical prizes that I posted out to them. And of course, everyone that participated got a certificate for good hunting inside Oscar. So my little treasure hunt gave everyone a little participation mark, if you like. So acknowledged everybody. And so my trend for users searching the knowledge base or answers viewed inside the knowledge base, you can see increased markedly during the circled area where people were looking for answers in the knowledge base. So from when we're looking at hovering around, you know, the 500 to 600 mark in there, we had an absolute peak of 2,500 answers viewed in that first treasure hunt. What it did, whilst there was a drop post that, you can see that the numbers significantly increased following on from that. So when we were hovering down on the bottom left, you know, in the 500 to 700s in there, we then increased post that treasure hunt from 1,200 to 1,500 and 1,800 in there. So what I did, I guess I'm using the metaphor of drawing the horse to the water and hoping that it drinks. These people, our education counsellors globally, not only had a bit of fun, but they hopefully saw some value in the search tools and the content that they saw inside the knowledge base, and continued to then use it after the treasure hunt had been completed. So the trend and the trend lines going up there were showing that there was increased usage post treasure hunt, which was great. There is peaks and troughs in there because of the schooling year, if you like. There's obviously a peak when people are applying to attend schools for pre-semester start. So, you know, in Australia, universities start in early March, February, March. And therefore the peak season for applying would be, you know, January, and the second semester university starts in July, so there's a peak in July, and a trough after that when not so many people are applying. So hence I can explain the peaks and troughs that happen inside the knowledge base. But it was great to see this general trend occurring post treasure hunt. Yay, winning, hey. All right. Then the following year, we thought whether we should do the same thing again. Can we capitalise and enhance on what we'd done in the previous year? Were there significant changes to the knowledge base to warrant doing the treasure hunt again? Did we need to remind them how to do searching? And how would we make it different and better? We had to think about again in the second year. What we did do was that there was another small project occurring to the knowledge base to enable different ways to educate, or there've been some changes to the homepage, if you like. So we'd added some extra options for finding content and understanding what was going on inside the knowledge base. You can see from my little red highlights in there, were some of the changes that we'd made in the following year, and some connections. So that was a good way to look at delivering our treasure hunt. Check the What's New feed, find that clue. So I would do an article under the What's New area, part of the What's New article, put in the clue in there, and then there would be a link, and then they could access to Oscar Connect, which was our community portal, to actually answer the question. So yes, they were still searching, looking for Oscar inside the knowledge base. We upped the questions a bit, but we're still about making sure that people understood how search worked, and also how you could navigate, whether you wanted to use some of the categories and all that sort of stuff. So I sort of ramped up the questions a little as well. But then once they'd found Oscar, they then had a link. They go back to a link to open up the community portal, and the community portal had a polling opportunities that would then allow us to get the end users to answer the question only once, and they couldn't see anyone other answers until they completed their own. So it meant that I could look at different ways of managing that, and also getting some usage and some viewing inside the community portal as well. So, which was pretty cool. So obviously the question here was search the knowledge base for Bachelor Interior Design, and how many results did you get? And then individuals were posting back the answers of how many they found in there, so we could manage it that way. And I think I managed the answers myself rather than relying on my cohort in India to help me. What did I find from the second treasure hunt? That the number of participants in total were less than the previous year. So some of the fun, I guess, wasn't in it as it was the previous year. It was a new thing in the first year, but the second year, not quite a new and exciting. However, we still did give a certificate of participation to all of our participants, and I also still did organise some gifts to be sent out to them as well. So I've spent some money just finding some suitable related Oscar type toys and gifts to give out to our daily winners. Again, my answer outcomes, whilst the participant numbers were potentially not the same, it still was a peak increase on what had been viewed previously. So we're in the 3,500 prior to the treasure hunt, hit a peak of 4,500 in there. And then, yes, it did drop even after the first couple of weeks of the treasure hunt. But again, that trend of increasing people viewing the knowledge base followed, which was great. So I guess part of that is also aligning with the amount of students that we had applying to go to university, et cetera, but that trend line continued, that year on year or week on week increase continued there, which was really good. So what we learned out of that element, the treasure hunt, was that it worked. We get people to go in and have a look, and then hopefully by having a look in there, they can also see that there is value in the content is there, and they come back. We also had a survey of what are the best features of the entirety of the Oscar system, and the knowledge base won hands down again the second year in a row. And I guess by the fourth point there is that the survey or the rankings of what are the best features and the treasure hunt happen around the same time. I think the treasure hunt happens first and then the rankings are done after that. So it's front of mind, I guess, for many people. Partly no surprise then it would win because there's a bit of fun. But then we're doing our survey and it's like, hey, do you like the knowledge base? I was like, yeah, it's the best because I won some prizes or I got a certificate. So timing is also part of the fun feature there. But I've got a few more things to share with you about game elements inside your business processes. So I'll share those things with you as well, looking at my time. All right, we've got some other reward and game-like mechanisms inside our tool, and I just wanted to share you some of those. Community recognition. We had participation in Oscar Connect was a little higher due to the fact that we were using badges inside the community site. Some users love this badge element because it got them an increase or a different badge when their point score increased, and so they were responding to every post and comment so they can accrue a higher point score. But it was also recognition for users who do post and comment. So it was actually a really interesting way by adding this badges element and these point scores to our community portal. We got recognition of people who do post and share comments, as well as people having a bit of fun in there as well. So what happens is with the points or the reputation, the different activities that they did inside the community portal were allocated a set number of points. As you can see, these are the ones that I had set up, well, I guess part B set up inside the portal. Originally, I had higher points for new posts and the creation of comments. I think I had 50 for a new post and 25 for a comment in there. But then I had a lot of people who were just saying great and thank you as a comment. So I dropped the create comment points down a little bit. Otherwise, people were just, thumbs upping and great and not actually responding with anything of any value or having any discussion about it. So by reducing the points that they got from a comment, and I did tell them that's what I was doing, I then allowed for ratings and people actually to go in there and rate and add feedback and things like that, and gave them higher point scores in that way. So it was a bit of test and learning there on my part about how we used points to manage the content that's happening in the community portal. The other thing it did was it allowed me to look at how participation was occurring inside the portal. So over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that there was different levels set up based on the amount of points that happened or the activities that happened inside the portal. And on the left, I can then tell by the number of points or the movement between one level and another, how many members were participating inside the portal. So when you had logged in, you became a member, and it wasn't until you actually started doing some activities in there that you got some points. So if you like to comment, you got 5 points, and that may put you into the good start. So by seeing that change in member numbers, I can see that when I had a change or something that was significant enough to work out how many users in there. I think it was, as I say, we're looking at about 700 odd counsellors, and I'll show you the stats in a minute. But what it's showing me is that I had total members of 310 the previous week, which I've got in my comment box there, and only one new user, and that was one new person who was added to the knowledge system based on some different data. So by knowing that there were 7 people who moved from being a member to another level, that means that that was 7 people who were moved enough to add a comment or like a post or whatever it is that they need to do. So it was rapidly showing me how users were moving between the different elements in there. One of the things that I did learn with my reputation levels there on the right was that I think I had, I started off with 5,000 points as my silver superstar and 10,000 points as my gold megastar levels. And I found pretty rapidly that, particularly when I had my comments points higher, that people moved from bronze star to silver superstar very quickly. So I adjusted the points thinking no one would notice. And I had 3 users who were silver superstars who jumped back down to bronze stars, who contacted me by email saying, "What's happening? I was silver and then I was bronze." So I knew then that some people actually were emotionally connected and cared about what levels they were inside the community base. So I had to apologise profusely, but I explained to them that we didn't want everyone to be a silver superstar really quickly, and that it would hopefully encourage them to make more posts and rate the posts and things like that in the future. So I think I got away with it, but yeah, they did notice. They noticed that their points had changed. And so I wanted to talk to you about how I measured the value of my users. And this is a bit dated now, but I still quite like it as a way to measure participation inside my social accounts, if you like, because it was based on social media, this data. And what this was a survey that was done in 2009, and it was also then included in the Groundswell book that was written by Shailene Lee and Josh Bernhoff. And what it was showing me is that consumers participate in social activities in different ways. And yes, it doesn't add up to 100, and that's because some days people are a creator, and some days people are a collector, and some days people are just joiners and they lurk, or they're spectators, sorry, and they lurk. But the key part was that 17% of people that were a part of that survey were inactive. They don't do anything. They don't participate in social. And yes, this is 2009, and I know things are very different now, but this was a good way for me to start then on trying to look at ways that I could measure activity in my community portal. I must try and find some way to do that with more recent research, but this worked for me at the time. All right, so then I could use that to help build my KPIs. So in the top right corner there were the measures I pulled both out of the knowledge base as well as the community portal, Oscar Connect. And then my Oscar Connect. So looking back, I think I looked at the target was based around the types of activities that I got from the groundswell thing. So my target was to have 70% of licenses that we had allocated to staff to use Oscar, the knowledge base and Connect. I wanted 70% of them in and actually using the portal. My result was that I got 38%, so I wasn't meeting that target. But that was based around spectators, people who read blogs, listen to podcasts, watch videos and all that sort of stuff. So I was using this measurement tool to try and help build some targets for myself. The creators, I matched exactly back to our little portal there, or close enough. I think I put 23, but it was 24 on this. People who actually publish posts or share articles and that sort of stuff. And the commentators were combined with the conversationalists and all that sort of stuff. So those things I was meeting. I anticipated that I wanted 24%, and I had 23% who were creators. I wanted 33% of users to be commenters, and I had 36%. So I was doing quite well there. And of course, inactive, which is the reverse of the active users, because I wasn't meeting my target on the active users, I was obviously dropping out in there. But this was a really good way for me to try and look at ways to like increase usage, how to moderate my community, look at how many people were actually creating and commenting, and it helped in that. Yeah, it was a good way to go. So that was my KPIs were decrease number of staff not yet on Oscar Connect and increase adoption, increase usage in there. Those were my KPIs. And as you can see, there's some other interesting reporting that I was doing as well. So not just viewing answers. I was looking at keyword searches and in the knowledge base, and how many of those keyword searches were producing 0 results. And if they were producing a 0 result, that means we had some keyword problems inside our knowledge base, which was a really good way to measure whether people are finding what they're looking for in there as well. So that little sidebar note for you. All right, some resources. There's a gamification course on Coursera that I did that is based on the book For the Win that Kevin Werbeck wrote. So he does this course on Coursera. I did it a couple of years ago. I'm actually even considering it to go back and have another look at it. But I really liked it and actually talked about a lot of apps and websites that use gamification to help encourage participation and usage in there as well. So go and have a look at that. It's Coursera. It's free unless you want a certificate, and then you pay a fee, but highly recommend. And also I've clicked the link to the book as well. So I have a soft copy and a hard copy. The hard copy I lent to a boss at ANZ and I never saw it again, but you know, I can still read it online. So I highly recommend reading the book if you want to. All right, got any questions for me? I think oh yeah.
Not just yet, but please remember everyone, post questions in the Q&A if you want to privately ask, and I can announce them and throw them to Lyn for you.
Please do. It's a bit of fun. I actually quite like this course too. I would recommend going in and having a look at that if you haven't done it. I also did this really cool course on creativity based on the philosophers of old from a French university. So it was really cool listening to a French guy talking about the old philosophers, and then talking about whether that was creativity or innovation. It was pretty cool as well. So Coursera's got some good stuff.
Sorry,
cool.
Lyn, we did have some a question come right in as we did that, and I apologise for my background noise. I'm a noisy person. Was there a particular tool that you used to manage the points or scoring, and was it integrated with any others? I can't recall whether you said it was part of Oscar as a custom app or not, and how much time did you devote, or would you now, to managing the gamification of the knowledge base?
Cool. All right, big questions. All right, so yes, okay. The tool we were using was Right Now, which was then purchased by Oracle, and I'm pretty sure it's been absorbed and sold and got rid of. Well, absorbed, not sold. It's been chewed up and spat out, I think, these days. And it had in the portal, the gamification elements were built in there. Now I did a quick Google of what gamification tools you can use for Microsoft products, and I know there's an app or an add-on called Gamify that looks like it does the same sort of thing for SharePoint. I'm not 100% sure with Yammer, but I'm pretty sure there's an add-on for that as well. It's not something that's defaulted. When I was at ANZ, they were using something called, it was based on NewsGator, and I can't remember what the rebranding of that was, but they had some gamification apps in there. So, or some badges and stuff that's in there. Time taken, yeah, I definitely would still do it, particularly on a global community, because it's really hard to get everybody on the same page. So this is one way to sort of make it a bit of fun. And it really worked well. I guess the thing to recall is that, or think about, is that this is extrinsic motivation. So it's something that you get an instant reward for. You get your little buzz of dopamine or whatever it is that makes you happy, the endorphins flow, and it's pretty cool. And yeah, you get a certificate and it's a bit of fun, but then it passes. So whilst it's not something that can it's potential that it's not a long-term thing, which is why we only did it once per year, though the badges and stuff work quite well. The treasure hunt we did once per year. And it's just a little bit of fun, and some people love it and some people could care less after a while. I know that in some of my games, I don't care if I don't finish them and I don't get all the badges that I need to do. So, but I still think there's an element of fun to trying to get that built into your processes to say, hey, if you answer this question, we'll give you some points, or hey, if you help us fix this process, or hey, if you participate in the community practice voluntarily, etc., etc. I think it's a good way just to generate some goodwill, if you like, or some feelings in there. But as I said, it's extrinsic motivation, it's an instantaneous reward, and it's not necessarily long term. In the session I ran yesterday, I talked about intrinsic motivations and what motivates us to keep working. And I highly recommend some work from Dan Pink about what motivates us in the workplace. So go and find that, because I think to a point after that, yes, these little badges and points and little birds work for initial interest, but it's about the quality of the offerings that you have and how we recognise our employees on a larger scale that becomes the long-term and better way to look after your employees and have a bit of fun in the workplace and acknowledge them. So hopefully that answers the question. What did I miss on that? Because it was a 4-parter or something.
It was a long one. Do you want me to recap or?
Sure. Or, yeah. Or if you want to ask, if the person who asked the question can ask that bit that I missed. Yeah.
True. Feel free to read if there's any gaps in that you want to have further. And anyone else, feel free to post any questions if you do have any more.
Awesome. What have I shared? Yep. Microsoft 365 in May has got a competition. If you feel like participating, you can enter the QR code for this week. And we also have some really awesome sponsors, which I'm happy to share, and the awesome support from the people who pulled this awesome event together. Megan, Lorian, Rebecca, love yous. Cool.
Thank you, Lyn. And just to recap that previous question you answered, the response that came in was you got it, thank you, with a big smiley face.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
And so that is our only question in there at the moment. There is a bit of a delay, but I think we've got everything that's come through now. So no more questions. Thanks, Lyn.
Cool. Well, my details are at the front of the deck. I'll be sharing it and the team will be sharing it. So feel free to buzz me later if you want to, but hopefully I've added some thought process around how you can get participation in your workplace as well. So.